Good morning, all. This is the Friday morning, uh, day after Christmas um, panel where we're doing stuff because I'm out of town and I'm coming through you through my cell phone instead of my laptop, which for some strange reason, though it perfectly works on Teams, is not working today on StreamYard. We'll be joined shortly by our other usual panelists, David S. But today I'm just working on the morning with Wasserman, who's here yet again. So, did you? I know as you're Jewish, did you even have Christmas there, Wasserman?
Well, yes, we did. My wife who's Anglican,
Mm,
my,
the proper religion.
we have some Christmas traditions of our own. So we invited everyone who we knew to be alone to come have dinner with us, and
Mhm.
half of them came, and we had a nice roast beef dinner, and then we after that they left, and we began the first in the series of the Harry Potter series, which is our traditional. We've been doing that every year for a number of years, and we're going to watch the whole series over the next couple of days.
Oh wow! Okay.
So very nice, very nice. Definitely embodies the Christmas spirit for us. So
Yeah. Christmas Eve for me. Uh, Basically, my mother is dating this guy. They're pretty much common law in Canada, but they have like they only spend the weekends usually together. But he has this giant. Oh, here we go. David S is entering the studio, so I'm trying to add him to the stream here. God. Uh, participant. The phone is a funny thing when you. Does not seem to want me to let me add him to the stream, but I'll try. I'll go to StreamYard. There might be a little bit of a technicality here, guys, in the background. If you're listening to this, but so what we have to do sometimes. Studio. Yeah, so David S is yet again still giving me the his his connection is not connecting properly, so that's why I can't seem to add him. I'll
hmm.
message him about that. But basically, yeah, I do Die Hard 2 and Battle Beyond the Stars is my Christmas Eve tradition. And we had one Christmas on Christmas Eve with one half of the family, and then Christmas Day we had it with the other half of the family.
A situation I know well.
Yeah, what's happened? Well, what happened is that.
Oh dear. Well, I'm not even sure if we haven't. Oh, there we go.
Yeah, unfortunately, a couple of the elders of the family are encountering the later phases of life dementia, and we just don't want to overwhelm them. So one group of family gets together, and then the other group of family gets together.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I had a very interesting discussion with my stepfather last night, because I explained to him what the hell Ukraine is all about, and his daughter is Ukrainian, or sorry, daughter-in-law is Ukrainian. She has a bunch of the refugee families here visiting, and like most people, they don't actually understand what Ukraine is all about. And it's like, it's all about, and to me, it's all about the fact the Austrian-Hungarian Empire was trying to break up the Russians by encouraging a minority into existence, and now we're dealing with the effects of some dead empire scheming.
Yeah, that is certainly. I mean, that's one perspective, and I wouldn't deny it. I mean, I would say my perspective is slightly different. I think I actually have maybe 2 or 3 different perspectives on it myself.
Yeah.
One is that the Ukraine, as we know it, it's a completely artificial entity with no intrinsic ethno-state of its own.
You're right.
And that explains everything. Another perspective is that that patch of land has been squabbled over pretty much nonstop for at least 1,000 years, if not longer. So this is just more of the same. And these perspectives aren't mutually exclusive. And then another perspective is this is a civil war inside of Ukraine, which is also true. So there's lots of different ways to look at it. That as I said, that aren't really necessarily mutually exclusive to each other. So I appreciate your perspective as well. And I don't consider myself a great expert. I just consider myself reasonably well informed.
Yeah, same here. Most of my information comes from the only English book I could find on the Russo-Polish War from the 1920s is Red Star, White Star. So a lot of information comes from that, and then various articles I've read over the years. But the general consensus seems to indicate it's it's a project started by to break up the Russians in such a way. But
Russia has been under attack for 1,000 years.
Yep.
If you're Russian, you certainly see it that way. My perspective comes from family history. My grandfather grew up outside of Kiev, and for current events, I tend to rely a lot on the Duran. They mostly ring true for me. I mean, there's no source of news that I get that I agree with 100%. And so, there are aspects of every news source I consume that I personally don't agree with and discount. But for the most part, they're pretty realistic.
Yeah, I'm trying to bring David S. in again. So we'll see if this. Yeah. Yep. No, I'm good. Yep. Every time I try to go on there, I get like backlash, even though I'm not logged in to the thing, and I'm just getting his thing saying, "Oh, I'm not connected via the devices." So it's really turning into one of those mornings where you don't get the technology working. But it'll be probably better once I get back home properly. But hey,
in business, I've spent years telling people. I'll ask people if they've contacted so and so, and they'll say I sent an email, and I've spent years saying email's not reliable.
Yeah.
Technology.
Email is the purpose of email is you have a record is what I always looked at. Like people are like, can't you call us on the phone? But if I send you a phone and you forget about it, but when I send you an email, I can say, hey, I sent them an email.
That's exactly what I tell my staff. I tell them, email exists to confirm discussions that you've had with the person verbally. Or to set up a discussion.
Yeah. So what subject should we handle this morning?
Well, I don't know. What do you feel like?
Well, David S. is not here, so we can't really talk about Israel because that's his number one issue.
I don't have, I never have anything to say on it either. I mean, it's almost, I really hate to say it, but if I'm going to tell the truth, the truth is that since an early age, maybe since the age of 18, so way back in the 70s and 80s, I felt that pretty much the only lasting solution to the Middle East would be to turn it to glass.
Yeah, I was going to say nuclear weapons is the option there. To me, the Middle East is, why did the Israelis really want to go back to, or the Jews of Europe think that was a good idea to go back to Israel? Like, you could have carved out a piece, someone would have set up Stalin would have installed some sort of piece of Germany, and you'd been much more happier there.
Well, I think the answer to that question is the British convinced them.
Yeah, the British are responsible for many of the world's ills, apparently.
Yeah, I don't think that's a very complicated question or answer.
Yeah. No, it always interested me that Israel is probably the number one sufferer of terrorism, but they also, and that most of the founders of Israel created modern day terrorism, like the Stern Gang. Like,
I got no affinity for Israel at all. I consider the history of Israel most depressing at every level.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, David S has abandoned the stream because he can't get on, and I'm like, I think it's mainly because I'm stuck in Ottawa visiting my folks for the weekend.
I see a comment from the audience. Why would they want to go back for other reasons besides the English convinced them? Is probably because of Jerusalem and historic religious spots and buildings.
Yep.
Yeah, we can't ignore that. It's hard, I guess that probably is, if I take a non-emotional look at it, I have to say it's probably very, very true for some percentage of Jews. That feel this deep attachment to these religious symbols. I've just never been one of those Jews, so although I can admit that it's probably true, I have no idea for how many people, or for, I really don't know.
Yeah, no, I'm in a similar boat, because when we have this big debate going on, raging in the United States right now between the Christian Zionists and the Jewish Zionists and the Christians who are not. Oh, hey, nice to see you there, James, from Barris's Book Club. Glad to see you're one of the new subscribers as opposed to one of the old subscribers that I picked up along the way, mainly when Gonzalo Lira blasted out my name one day, and I got like 400 subscribers in 24 hours. So that's good. But yeah, for me, Israel should be making the argument, we're better stewards of the holy sites like Bethlehem and all the other things, especially around the Christmas holidays, instead of just saying, Jews are especially holy to Christians. And I'm like, no, you're not. Our job as Christians is to convert all the Jews to Christianity, just our job is to convert all the Muslims and the Hindus and all the Zoroastrians and everyone else. That's our job. We're supposed to make the Jews ennobled to Andrew Clavin. And I think that's when we've seen with this Christian revivalism in the United States, where all these young people are reading the Bible, and they're like, the Bible doesn't tell us to treat the Jews special, like all our Christian pastors tell us. I saw that yesterday on X, and I'm like, that's not what it tells us. It tells us we're supposed to convert everyone to our religion, just as almost every other religion on the planet tells us to convert to theirs, except for, as far as I know, Jews and Zoroastrians.
Oh, I mean, I cast the net of religion wide. I don't think the Buddhists or the Hindus or I don't think they proselytize either.
Yeah,
Native
and like
American. Yeah.
yeah, I don't know those religions well enough to say so, but I definitely think the Taoists definitely don't proselytize.
Yeah, I mean, one of my biggest objections to the cult of Christopher Hitchens is that Hitchens' attacks on religion were really just attacks on Catholicism.
Yeah. Yeah, so we've agreed to move away from the at least Israel from the Middle East.
I like the talk we're having. We're not exactly talking about Israel. I mean, I will tell you that here I put on my tinfoil hat. I have long considered Christian Zionism a psyop.
Oh
I,
yeah, yeah,
I
definitely.
don't think there's anything organic or grassroots about it.
No, it was, from what I can tell, it was Likud got in power in the 70s and decided to fund because a lot of these Christian Zionist groups in the United States were wrapped up in various scandals along sex or drugs or alcohol, these big mega church pastors. So they were happy to start proselytizing about Israel in order to cover up for their own misdeeds and stealing money from their parishioners. And you don't see this, like, there's nothing in, I, like your wife is Anglican, I'm Anglican, my understanding from the Catholics, it's something similar. We don't have these issues in our churches. We don't, our, not sermon, but yeah, like it's 7 minutes long. Like my guy says, if I have to be talking for more than 7 minutes, I'm doing something wrong here. And then I'm watching some guy talking about the Charlie Kirk assassination, and he's a Catholic, and he's watching Charlie Kirk's pastor go on for an hour for a sermon, and he's like, "What is going on here? This is nuts." And it's just this meandering stream of consciousness, and that's what we see a lot with these. It's just a virus in the evangelical community, from what I can tell. And evangelicalism is way bigger in the United States than I can tell you here in Canada.
Mm-hmm. Well, again, I don't know that it's really way bigger. I mean, this is the thing about psyops and astroturfing. It's always made to seem more prominent, or you have these tiny little, and it's not just. I'm not speaking purely now of Christian Zionism. You have these tiny little cabals of fanatics, and they do a very effective job of making themselves seem like, or other people do a very good job of making them seem as though there's some kind of populist wave. But
Yeah.
and so that's what I mean. I say there's, in my humble opinion, there's nothing organic or grassroots about Christian Zionism. Nothing.
Yeah. It's just a lot of money flowing into people who are going to proselytize the way so they can fatten up their checkbook, from what I can tell.
Yeah. So yep.
Well, I was discussing, like, why is Israel such a big thing to Americans? And when Egypt gets more money from the United States than Israel does, and it's all about the control of the Suez Canal and protecting both sides of it and making it safe, so the American care battle groups can transit to Taiwan anytime they want. But the difference is that got something from Money Circus here, but I'll check that out in a second. But basically, the difference between Israel and Egypt is Egypt isn't going to war with all its neighbors every 5 years. That's why no one cares about Egypt versus Israel. People always think it's like some sort of anti-Semitic thing, that people are mad about what Israel is doing. And it's like, no one would care if Israel could just be nice to its neighbors, but it can't. It has to.
Is that true? I mean, it's well, also, I mean, well, I will say that. I will say that, I'm a little, I don't know if I'm a little bit older than you. I might be. You
A
know,
little bit.
there was a time when Israel was constantly under attack,
Yeah.
and Israel solved that problem by becoming the aggressor and creating a buffer zone of chaos and despair in countries that surrounded it. And
Mhm.
that is, I consider that to be the most depressing fact about Israel is that this strategy turned out to be effective for them.
Yeah. Somewhat
And
effective. I don't necessarily think it's been very effective for them. And I
well,
think David S. is
from the
right in
point of
this, the
view
fact
of
that it
internal
didn't
terror
necessarily
attacks,
work out for their benefit.
well, from the point of view of internal terror attacks, has been very effective. When I was a child, you know, Israelis inside of Israel were much more susceptible. Were dying at a much greater rate on you
Mm.
know, on a daily basis than they are now.
Mm.
So Israel did succeed in securing its borders and securing internal peace at the price of becoming, you know, a monster.
Yeah.
And I find that extremely depressing. And so this is why I say when I said that I find the whole situation depressing. That's the key thing that I found depressing about it. And I got to that point. I can't even name the year. I got to that point probably in '79.
Yeah. Ironic when the Camp David Accords go in, bringing peace to Israel and Egypt, and then allowing Israel, I guess, to go free reign everywhere else.
Yep. And so it's just a very depressing observation. I don't know what else to say about it.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, I like the topic of astroturfing. So if we can agree that Christian Zionism is possibly an astroturf operation, well, what are other candidates here? What are the currently overblown and or even that one we could talk more about it. So, for example, I am firmly convinced that the reason why James Lindsay went loopy was
Mm.
because some intelligence agency operative wormed their way into his confidence, and then convinced him that the ultra far right nationalism was a lot larger and more prevalent than it actually is, and
True.
and appealed to his savior, his better nature, his savior instincts,
Yep.
and just completely, you know. And I've seen it happen to a number of very popular. I think something similar probably happened with Candace Owens. I think that there's a lot of. I think something like that happened to Jordan Peterson. I think that there's a lot of popular public personages who were heterogeneous and disobeyed the party line, who eventually ended up being susceptible to this kind of intelligence operation.
True. Yeah, I do see that. I'm with Candace Owens. From what I understand, she's a natural conspiracy person.
Mm-hmm.
So she always just believes there's some bigger conspiracy behind everything. And unfortunately, she started thinking there was the Jews behind everything. And I'm like, when she starts going off about the JFK assassination and thinking Israel was involved, I'm like, I don't think Israel's involved, because why would all those wasps in the 60s? You just don't, she has no historical knowledge in the sense that, like, the wasps of that era hated Jews and wouldn't work with them. I mean, there is some noted assumptions amongst that bunch. James Jesus Angleton and Alan Dulles were actually very big pro Zionist Christians at that time, and they are prominent players at the CIA. But most of the people working at the State Department, including John Dulles, were Arabists. They did not like in Israel being inserted into that area, because they all grew up reading Lawrence of Olivier, and not Lawrence of Olivier, Lawrence of Arabia,
Yeah.
and all that. And they were so pro Arab and back them to the point where, they screwed the French and the British after they tried to seize the Suez Canal. Like, get that back from them. And that really screwed over Europe in so many bad ways that, France and Britain weren't allowed to have independent foreign policies from that point on because they were so basically started becoming colonies and clients of the United States.
Yeah, so to trace that back to its origin, I don't think that it's particularly likely that Israel is behind Kennedy assassination. But the problem is that when the official organs of the state are clearly lying to everybody about everything, who's to say they're not? And so I'm sympathetic. I'm sympathetic to people like Candace Owen who become James is saying the area is so ripe for conspiracy theories and meddling. Given it creates an environment wherein people who have an intense desire either for notability or or to help people, because I don't I was there at the very, 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 very beginning of the Candace Owens story, and ambition and a desire to help people are not mutually exclusive.
Right.
And so, I think that I hate the word influencers, but I'll use it. I believe that these influencers, those amongst them who have an intense desire to be helpful or to do some good, are extremely susceptible to intelligence operations where their confidence is gained by telling them a few confidential or secret things that turn out to be true, and so then you build confidence, and suddenly this person becomes a trusted source for what's really happening, and then and then once the confidence is gained, of course, at that point, they can start the entire
the Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy effect.
Yeah. It's been I can't remember that. It's been forever since I've read that.
I watch it every year, man.
Oh, maybe I should.
Yeah, and you can find it for free on YouTube. But yeah, the idea that you have is sometimes called chicken feed, where you provide high value intelligence to an intelligence agency, and then once you have gained their trust, you start feeding them garbage.
There's a great British police drama where one of the characters is this typical, just so typical intelligence operative, and nobody can ever believe a single thing he says. Sometimes it's true, sometimes it's not. You never know why he's saying it, and it's such a beautiful and accurate depiction of these people. I think it was called The New. It was a very funny drama. It was about a bunch of old retirees and a young ambitious police captain who organizes them, into some kind of cold case squad. I think it's called The New Guys or something like that. And the actor from The Minder is in it. You remember The Minder?
No, I don't think I saw The Minder.
I thought every Canadian remembered The Minder. The Minder was he was it was another British television series, and he played sort of fixer. The Minder is the fixer. It's a character like what's that character that Liev Schreiber played that was so popular?
Oh, God. Yeah, I know what you're talking. I know the Liev Schreiber show. Yes.
Yeah. So the Minder is one of those guys.
Yeah, fixer goes around. You have a problem. You're and the one with Liev Schreiber is like he's in Hollywood, and he has he has some high profile clients that need him to cover up their crap whenever they get in trouble because money and drugs and alcohol make you do stupid, really, really stupid things.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So So yeah, that's so anyway, that's I think that this is a real phenomenon. I think that people like that really exist. And the problem is that some people, especially I'd say probably just based on human nature in general, it's probably the people that most believe that they're impervious to that kind of thing that are in fact actually the most susceptible.
Yeah. Was it? I'm always reminded of the Dukes of Hazzard reunion TV show movie,
Mhm.
where like Boss Hogg, of course, has passed away. The actor passed away, but they bring in these people who are con people who are going to screw over the town, and Sheriff Coltrane completely screws them up because he's following a basically Boss Hogg had left him this book on how to screw over con men. And at the end, he's like, I'm just following Boss Hogg's instructions. But he said, the people most likely to be conned are con people because they don't think they can be conned.
Yep.
But
Yeah.
a good example is, of course, you probably never heard of him. He goes by the name Agent Garbo.
I don't think I do. I don't think I know
Yeah.
Garbo.
So Agent Garbo it's 1940. There's a Spanish Republican who hates fascism and the Nazis and all that. And he goes to the British and he says, hey, I can be a great spy for you. I have all these contacts. Let me help you out. And the British look at him and they look at each other and then look at him and they're like, get the hell out of here, you bum. So the same guy goes to the Germans and says, hey, and makes the same pitch. And the Germans are like, sure. Why not? You start providing us intelligence and we'll start paying you. So this guy goes back to his apartment. He has a copy of Jane's Naval Atlas. He has a copy of a bunch of train schedules from London and the Encyclopedia Britannica. And he creates, out of whole cloth, 6 agents working in England. And he starts feeding this to the Germans out of his imagination. He just makes it all up. Meanwhile, by 1941, every German agent in England is now working for the British because between Enigma and some other stuff, they were able to capture all the Germans and turn them to their side or executed them in the Tower of London. It was like, those were your 2 choices. So most of the Germans who were not Nazis, they were kind of like adventurous types who were willing to go to England and spy. So sure, we'll work for you. And suddenly all these agents start getting taught questions from their German handlers about a convoy in Dover based around the battleship Barholm. And the British are like, why are they asking about a battleship that we all know is in the South Atlantic? And someone says, hey, remember that weird Spanish guy? So they go over to the Spanish guy's place. They break it down the door and talk to him. And they're like, and he tells them about his elaborate con job where he's being paid by the Germans to feed them fake intelligence. And the British are like, huh, okay, we can use you. So they recruit him and they start integrating all his fake spies into their network so they can start shaping German perception. And at one time, he and a team of guys are running 17 agents that don't exist anywhere and start feeding to the Germans. And like they even have one of the agents die, who's a dock worker in Canada of all places, and he dies.
Oh, you have frozen. You have frozen.
We had a hiccup with the Wi-Fi, I think, and they kill him off, and the Germans send him like, "Oh, when we win the war and it's over, we'll be sending his widow an Iron Cross for all his service."
Well, isn't that sort of the in a very generalized sense the plot of the Taylor of Panama as well?
Exactly. That when I watched the Taylor of Panama for the first time, I was like, "Oh my God, this movie is this is not fiction. This is a documentary of Agent Garbo."
Yeah, well, that's so that's sort of it is actually very illustrative of what I think in the sense that it's a world where nothing can ever be taken as true.
Yeah.
I think the people that operate it within it are deeply unrooted from reality. Right? So,
And often they are. John Kiriakou was a very senior CIA agent, and he now has a podcast. Talks about a lot of this stuff. He's like, yeah, so much of the stuff we see in intelligence is so much made up.
and at the same time, someone like that, I'll never ever believe them because
Mm.
I don't think anyone ever reforms, or I'm cynical. I'm cynical to the point of thinking that even a self-proclaimed ex-intelligence operative is still a current one.
Yeah. Well, what was he? What? Oh, he says that they don't recruit sociopaths, but they want to recruit people who have sociopathic tendencies. He said one time, like he was taking one of those. He was working for a private corporation, and he's taking one of the tests where they say you. What would you do if you had this sort of social situation? And he's like, uh, you know, you have a person who's willing to give you information, who's willing to give you inside information for your company, but he wants to have a meeting at a strip club. And he said, "Sure, I take $101 bills out of my bank account, and we'll be going down to have drinks with that guy." And they're like, "No, that's not what you're supposed to do." It's like, and he's like, that's how intelligence operatives think about it. It's like, yeah, we do those illegal things because we want the company to perform well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I think they probably. I mean, here's a completely uninformed. In other words, I have no special knowledge about this, but I would imagine that they probably also look for people who have fragmented personalities.
Yeah, that's certainly the truth. Yeah, the number of people who are often, you're supposed to, when you go to the CIA, you fill out all these questionnaires, and they want to know about your deep dark fantasies because they can use that once you have provided that to them.
Just like Scientology.
Exactly. Which may well have been a psyop as well.
Fair enough. Fair enough. It's and so that's the problem with the problem with conspiracy theories is that some of them are true.
Yep. Conspiracies happen every single day. So it's two people conspiring to commit a crime.
Yeah.
I'm a big believer in the idea that LBJ killed JFK because they were getting ready to drop him from the ticket. And he didn't want to be go to jail because that's what JFK was planning on doing to him. And apparently, Life magazine had a 5-issue special on the corruption of LBJ. During the assassination day itself, there's a guy at the FBI headquarters who's like talking to an FBI agent, exposing how LBJ had been extorting him for 10 years. And suddenly another FBI agent comes in and says, well, they shot him. And he's like, and the agent who was interviewing says, shot who? Oh, JFK. And then that agent turns around. The guy's just packing up all the information back into his briefcase. He said, and the guy's like, what are you doing? And he's like, he just killed the president of the United States of America. What chance do I have?
Yep. Yeah. Well, I think it's certainly the most likely scenario. Yeah. But at the same time, I'm sympathetic to alternate alternate theories because at the end of the day, it's we have no reason to believe that we can access the truth.
Yeah, that's certainly true. It's probably true about almost everything in life, and especially with the 20th century moving forward, as these guys kind of figured these things. It may well be maybe players from Mars that caused the magic book, but sometimes I just try to go with the simplest answer and
Well,
see
I just
where
wrote
that
an
gets.
article actually about that subject in the realm of science. It's
Mm.
we have a we have an endemic situation where science is popularly conceived as having access to the truth, when in fact, you know, any serious scientist would say the opposite. Science is not about accessing the truth; it's about disproving what you can disprove.
Yeah, I would say that's much more about science in that
Or at
way.
least modern science. I mean, you have to be
Mm.
careful with that. Since falsifiability became a concept,
Mm.
it's not the only kind of science. I mean, Bacon was a different kind of scientist.
Yeah,
So, and I don't want
yeah.
to belittle that, but modern science is all about saying, well, we can't ever really know what's true, but we can try and figure out what's false.
Yeah, that certainly is my impression. I've been watching these. Pierce Morgan's Uncensored, of course, is a show, but he's got a History Uncensored channel that just started up, and they're doing various things, and they're getting into like the where did the vampire myth come from, and they got another one. They're going to be exploring the Philosopher's Stone, and we had all these what we would consider historically serious scientists who are chasing the Philosopher's Stone
Yeah,
a couple of
why not?
centuries ago.
Why not? I and I have very little patience with people that smugly assume that we are superior to them in their ignorance, because I'm quite sure that if we were to drop one of them into our world and drop one of us into their world, they would last a whole lot longer in our world than we'd last in theirs.
Yeah.
Talk about unequipped. These. So, yeah, I don't like smug. I don't like smugness in general.
Mm.
And I certainly don't like smug certainty. That we have finally accessed the truth, and everyone before us was ignorant, but we're not. And even though everything, everything. Everything that people used to believe has turned out to be false, but this time we believe the right thing. No one will ever come after us that falsifies what we believe.
Mm.
That kind of arrogance is just galling to me.
Yeah. No, I agree. Like, it's just, yeah. Well, they lived at such more dangerous times than us. We'd probably get killed by some random thing that we just random social faux
Well, that's
pas.
what I mean. That one of us wouldn't last very long in their world,
Mm.
and it's because they lived in in reality, and we live in the world that we live in is much more highly abstracted and less real than the world they lived in. We don't confront reality very, as frequently or as brutally as they did.
Mm.
They're and I'll elaborate what I mean by that. A computer. So if we one of my favorite definitions of reality, or in fact my favorite, it's not one of my absolute favorite definition of reality is from the author Philip K. Dick, and he who had more than his share of struggles, and he defined reality as that which, even when you stop believing in it, refuses to go away. And and so, by this definition of reality, persistence, the, the the computers that we're using and the computer network that we're using to communicate with each other is not quite real. And what I mean by that is all it would take is one power outage or one fried chip or one unexplained Teams interaction, to turn this computer and this computer network into an expensive doorstop and a
True.
bunch of useless wires. So it has no persistence in reality. It's very, very ephemeral. On the other hand, if you're caught in a winter storm, there is nothing that's going to change that. It will
Right.
storm until the storm stops storming, and
Yeah,
it will get
that was
cold.
my drive up here to Ottawa involved a winter storm, and I was at one point like, am I going to make it through this? Am I going to crash my car? What's going to happen here? Am I going to pull into the first motel I see? But I managed to make it to where my destination once I got hit to the proper city.
Yeah, and so that's reality. And so we are very, very insulated from that kind of reality. And our forefathers, these people who were chasing the philosopher's stone, weren't. They were in
Mhm.
touch with much more reality than we're in touch with. And
Yeah.
that's why I say we wouldn't last long in their world, because reality is extremely dangerous.
Yeah. Reminds me of a story a friend of mine tells all the time about like this movie shoots happening in like South Africa. And every day they're returning from their shoot to their hotel. The film crew sees this one guy walking along carrying like a bundle of goods, and finally one of the actors says, "Hey, let's pick that guy up and take him into town." And so he doesn't have to walk all the way home carrying all that stuff. And so they pull over and they say, "Hey, we'll give you a lift into town." And the guy turns to them and says, "Why?" He's like, "Well, so you can cut your trip down." And the guy's like, "But what would I do with all that time?" He didn't know what to do with 30 minutes of his life
Yeah.
where he
Yeah, yeah.
wasn't walking along the road.
Yeah, exactly. Well, so yeah, it's but like it or not, it's the world we live in.
Mhm.
But it's a highly unreal world.
Yeah. Oh. Well, we keep talking about bringing on me and David. Keep talking about bringing on Tom Luongo on to help explode the channel when the time is right. And I can tell you, Philip K. Dick is one of his favorite authors.
Oh, well, I've read just about everything Dick ever wrote, even his serious fiction. So
Mhm.
we can, he wrote two, I believe, novels that are not science fiction. Yeah, and they weren't very popular. And I
Yeah.
have to admit, they didn't really stick with me.
Mhm.
But he had a real genius for science fiction. He had a real genius for probing the limits of reality.
Mhm. Yeah, I didn't do the Electric Sheep one, but I did read Man in the High Castle as a young man.
I think that to really get there's two. I think there's two books I think that really do the best job of that are the best of Dick. And so one of them is called Ubik.
Mhm.
You want
Yes.
to, yeah,
Yeah,
give you
Tom will go on about that. He reads
and
that every year.
the other one is called Valis, Valis.
Okay.
And I believe that these two books really capture Dick's genius.
Mhm.
Yeah. And so yeah, well, that'll be interesting to talk with Tom about that.
Yeah, no, that would be a good thing.
One PK Dick fan to another.
Mhm.
I wonder if Tom is into the Church of the Subgenius.
Yeah, probably.
I had one of my best friends was a minister in the Church of the Subgenius.
Okay.
Yeah.
We've talked about Israel. We talked about reality. We talked about some other science, and now we talked about Philip K. Dick.
This is the kind of conversation I like, and which I normally don't get a chance to have. So
Okay.
there you go. It's very rare that that I can talk about what I'm really interested in.
Right. Yeah. No, when we go on the spaces, you get people like David S. or whoever wanting to just go off and on about Israel all the time. And it's like, guys, or you get the other thing, everyone wants to talk about Ukraine. And it's like, I'm happy to talk about some of these subjects, but let's not make it all that's everything. There's others, people have other interests. Like David S. going on about his music career is something I'd like to hear about. Or
yeah, it is very interesting listening to talk. Well, David and I once had a very fun. I think maybe it was with you actually, where we talked about the airline industry. And
yes,
yeah, that was a great time. I loved that.
yeah.
Yeah, that guy has had some interesting life experiences. Let me tell you.
Yeah, certainly.
Makes me feel boring.
Yeah. Well, when he's talking about like, you back in the 90s, you just rented an airplane for 40 grand and you could make a few hundred grand shipping something from one place to the other. I'm like, that sounds amazing. Why aren't we able to do that now? And it's like, because people don't want you to make that kind of money anymore. But
yeah, very, very well, it's I strongly suspect that I won't say the peak because history probably has many peaks and valleys, but I strongly suspect that the 70s to 90s were some kind of peak in terms of personal liberties and freedom that we won't see again in our lifetimes. I think it's very, very possible that we're going to see a reversion to the mean of human history that's going to last easily hundreds or thousands of years.
I'm not quite convinced because we're living on the edge of like this mass die-off of people. And I think that's going to put so many wrenches into the system that we're going to have the people who are trying to control things are just not going to be able to control it. That's kind of my viewpoint. Like over the next 30 years, 3 billion people are going to die. And that giant transfer of wealth from the boomers to the younger generations just can't be controlled. And I'm not saying that people are going to die in wars. They're going to die in all sorts of things. But if nothing else, these people are dying from old age. And we're just going to see that transfer, and there will be no way to stop it. And even though people are trying to stop or exploit it, from what I can tell, one of the things I heard about why Europe is getting ready for war is because if they kill off the young generations, the governments will be able to tap into that wealth transfer. And I'm like, on the one hand, I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe people could be that cynical. And then I think about COVID and I'm like, these people are that cynical.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I don't doubt that. I mean, that's not hard at all for me to believe.
Mm-hmm.
I in that paper, so I after our discussion last week with David, or was it Monday maybe, I did write the paper I promised I'd write, and so I wrote about how the framers of the U.S. Constitution are popularly conceived of having been, and truthfully so. It's not that it's a misconception. Popularly conceived as having been heavily influenced by Locke, but what's not recognized is the extent to which they were also influenced by Hobbes.
Right. Yes. As soon as you said Locke, I knew it was like he's going to mention Hobbes.
Yeah, and so it's funny because I think that those two are often considered diametrically opposed, but I will say that it's I think it's difficult to dispute that the writers of the American Constitution were equally influenced by both.
Yeah, they wanted Locke to be right, but they knew Hobbes was around to be the diametrical opposite.
Yeah, and they recognized the truth of Hobbes's vision as well. Well, I put that. I thought I pasted that into our discussion on X. Maybe I didn't.
Maybe not. No,
Maybe
I did see Money Penny has dropped something right recently, and of course, hopefully one day we'll get him
I'm
on.
surprised he didn't join.
Yeah. Maybe he's not willing to join a live stream as opposed to an X space, but
Well, that's very possible. Yeah, that's very possible.
Mhm.
Well, we should have an X space as well then.
Yep. Well, we've been talking for about an hour here, and I mean it's Christmas holiday, so I have to entertain the folks. So
Please do, please do. So
Okay.
have a lovely vacation with your family, and all my best. And I'll speak to you again soon.
Yeah, sounds good. And for those two people who joined us this morning, including James, thanks for joining me and stopping by.
Yes,
And
nice
we'll
to
be
meet you.
doing more of these spaces or talks in the future.
All right, take care.
Okay, bye.